We even directly asked him, is it okay for people to kill their own children? And he said, if it's in their culture, then it's okay because it's in their culture. And when he said that, I looked at his daughter and she did a really uncomfortable laugh.
If being inconsistent in an argument in the street is more important for you than your daughter, I think it's a great argument for antinatalism.
Hello and welcome to Antinatalism this week. There was a meetup in Mumbai, India of antinatalists and child-free people, as you can see on the screen, and it was organized by somebody who unfortunately does not want to be named. However, they would be organizing more of these in the coming months. So if you happen to be in the city, you might want to check this out. Antinatalism outreaches are happening across the world. In the last week, we've had some in the United States, in Germany, in Japan, and also in Austria. Despite the rain and cold, Stop Having Kids were on the streets of Asheville in North Carolina. Antinatalism Japan did an outreach in Shibuya, Tokyo. And then we had Nimrod, who is doing his European tour across many cities in Europe. He was in Germany for most of the last week, touring Cologne, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, and Munich. He was also at a protest against war in Gaza, doing antinatalist outreach. This is interesting because Nimrod himself is from Israel. Antinatalism helps us transcend above these petty wars causing horrible suffering. I think it was Yuval Noah Harari who had said that we need to recognize that we can be perpetrators and victims at the same time. This recognition applies all the way from these worldly wars to being an antinatalist. Nimrod then moved on to Vienna, Austria, where he was joined by Lawrence. During their outreach in Vienna, an interaction happened which showed to what level of inconsistency we can fall to argue just for the argument's sake. A man, along with his daughter, approached them to discuss antinatalism. What happened after that is quite entertaining, but we'll get back to that in a bit. Next week, Nimrod moves to Czech Republic in Prague on 6th and 7th of May, and then returns to Germany in Dresden on 8th, Leipzig on 9th and Berlin on 10th before moving to Hamburg for the weekend. Amanda and Matti's book launch is coming up and Amanda has posted a video about that. To blow my own trumpet, I will be featured in the launch video, or so I'm told. Antinatalism Solving Everything Everywhere All at Once was a paper by Juna Rasnen and Matti Hayry. In that paper, the authors evaluated whether antinatalism will solve all of the problems, will they solve those problems everywhere, and will they solve them all at once. And they concluded that yes, antinatalism will solve them everywhere and all of the problems, but it would not be solved in one go because the solution, the nature of the solution is a phased extinction, if at all. And therefore, it wouldn't solve all at once. But this paper was written in October 2023. I had also made a review of this paper in that week's Antinatalism This Week. So this is not a news. The news is the Helsinki School of Economic Support Foundation has granted Matti Hayry a personal recognition award for this high quality publication of Antinatalism Solving Everything Everywhere All at Once. So this is an absolutely fantastic news. It is a good news not only for the idea of antinatalism, but also for the philosophers like Matti Hayry who are working on antinatalism, and it will also inspire other people to write and produce more content about antinatalism. So thanks to Helsinki University and absolutely fantastic work to Matti Hayry, and congratulations to him for this. A new channel called The Pond published a video discussing David Benatar's Better Never to Have Been. The video is a good analysis and summary of some of the important arguments for antinatalism. He has some objections to David Benatar's arguments. Let's have a look at the first one.
Be able to show what's wrong with it. Though there is just one thing that I have maybe some problems with, and that is that he calls the absence of pain in situation B good rather than neutral. Yes, the absence of pain is better than the presence of pain, but is it really a good thing in and of itself? I don't really think so. To show why, I've come up with the following analogy. Imagine, again, two scenarios. One in which we have a room that is completely empty with no people in it. The other room, we have a person who is being actively tortured. Now, we can surely all agree that the first room or the first scenario is better than the second scenario. The first scenario has no people and no pain. The second scenario has one person and that person is going through a lot of pain. But can we say about the empty room that the empty room is good in and of itself? To bring this back to the scale of antinatalism, exchange the word room for universe instead. Can we say that a universe with no beings in it and thus no pain is good in and of itself? Sure, it's better than a universe that's filled with torture, but it's not really good per se.
He's making a mistake here. He thinks that David Benatar is taking an impersonal view. An impersonal view is about the universe in which there would be a person or there would not be a person. But Benatar has clarified in Still Better Never to Have Been that his view is not an impersonal view. He says, an impersonal evaluation, as it is usually understood, makes no reference to the interests of a particular person. Instead, it is an evaluation that something is good or bad without being good or bad for somebody. I am not making an impersonal evaluation. I am concerned instead with whether coming into existence is in the interests of the person who comes into existence. While talking about the claim that absence of pain is good, David Benatar says that the absence of pain is good even if that good is not enjoyed by anybody. The judgment that it is good could be made impersonal. I am making it with reference to the interests of the person who would exist in an alternative possible world. The asymmetry is retrospective, meaning we have to think from the perspective of a person who exists. Benatar says, thus we can claim of somebody who exists that it would have been better for him if he had never existed. If somebody does not exist, we can state of him that had he existed, it would have been better for him if he had never existed. The second objection that the video maker has is about quality of life. Benatar proposed that due to optimism bias, Pollyanna principle, and adaptation preference, we do a mistake in judging our own quality of life. So then there is a subjective judgment. This is people's own judgment about quality of their own lives. And there is an objective judgment which is done through more scientific methods. The objection here is, if subjective judgments are good enough, who are we to use objective scales for other people's lives, even if those objective scales might be true? I can employ psychological mechanisms like optimism bias, Pollyanna principle, or adaptation preference to overcome the harms of my life. I can feel good that I exist. What's the problem with that? I don't think there is a problem where existing people use these coping mechanisms. We cannot use those subjective scales while deciding to create a new person. Say you have headache. There is medicine for it. That medicine helps you cure your headache. Just because there is medicine for it, would you want to have a headache? To create a headache, you have to think whether headache is harmful in and of itself and not whether medicine is available for it or not. That is why using subjective judgments, which are like medicine to help alleviate the harms of life, cannot be used to decide whether to create a new life or not. There we have to take into account objective scales. Overall, the video was good. It was about 44-minute long video, had some very good arguments. I liked the video overall, but it was just a couple of objections that I thought I should address. Lawrence made a video discussing whether life is a gift or not. That life is a gift is usually said casually by many pro-natalists. Lawrence presents a list of 7 criteria to decide whether something is a gift or not. And he evaluates them against life. Whether by creating someone, are we really gifting them something? No prizes to guess what the conclusion of the evaluation was. Tofu Dog made a video about female sterilization procedures. I say female sterilization procedures because there are many and all of them are very hard to pronounce. Tofu Dog goes through different types and then she explains her own experience. She addresses many aspects like the actual experience of having the surgery, interaction with medical staff before, during and after having it, their attitudes towards those who want to get this done before having children, the costs involved in it, and also the insurance aspects. She also provides resources about where to find such doctors and so on. It is a very personalized video, but at the same time very informative for anybody who is having female reproductive system and wants to get sterilized. There was a video about antinatalism in Japanese. I downloaded the transcript and translated it to English. I also translated the description. The cartoon presentation is very nice. What I got from the translation was that many topics were discussed. Topics like instincts, evolution, environment, and Japan's local situation, but I could not figure out whether this was an antinatalism video or anti-antinatalism video. If you happen to know, please let me know in the comments. Politico is a big magazine in the United States. It published an article summarizing the natal conference that happened in the month of December last year. The title itself is quite telling: the far right's campaign to explode the population. Now, I don't think being pro-natalist necessarily means that one is right-wing. Also, one can be an anti-natalist and still be on the right of the political spectrum. So we need to take the article with a sense of balance. But it makes some very salient points. For example, at one place, the article says, the broader natalist movement has been gaining momentum lately in the conservative circles, where anxieties over falling birth rates have converged with fears of rising immigration. One can be for or against immigration. That is not the subject of this channel. But if one is opposed to immigration while at the same time encouraging people to have more babies, then it becomes an antinatalist issue. Coming back to the article, it says, natalism is often about more than raising birth rates. Though that is certainly one of its aims for many in the room that is the conference, the ultimate goal is a total social overhaul, a culture in which child rearing is paramount. Attendees are also worried about other aspects like divorce, gender integration, wokeness, declining genetic quality. Many of the speakers and attendees see natalism as a way of reversing these changes. The race for breeding and outbreeding is often an idea in places like these. This conference suggests there's a simple way around the problem of majority rule, breeding a new majority, one that looks and sounds just like them. The goal of the conference was more better people. But beyond that, there were disagreements about what better means. Peachy Keenan, who was one of the speakers at the conference, said, better means conservative. Pat Fagan, who is the director of Marriage and Religion Institute at the Catholic University of America, says good children are the product of stable, two-parent Christian households away from the corrupting influences of public school and sex education. Christian couples, he adds, have the best, most orgasmic sex. Charles Haywood is another speaker at the conference, and he wants to oust women from the workforce and reinstitute male-only spaces where women are disadvantaged as a result. He also says the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and its progeny are probably the single most destructive set of laws in American history, and all should be wiped forever. Now, if you don't know, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a landmark law in American history which ended the discrimination on the basis of race, religion, color, or gender. This gives a good idea of the speakers at the conference and their worldviews. Unsurprisingly, this article has rattled some right-wing cages. Matt Walsh came up with a sarcastically titled article in Daily Wire, "The Dastardly Right-Wing Plot to Have Babies and Save Humanity from Extinction." Fox News ran the headline, "Politico Stuns Conservatives with Claim That Far-Right is So Obsessed with Making Babies." Now, coincidentally, around the same time that Natal Conference was organized, Antinatal Conference was also held. And there were and are disagreements within antinatalist community about antinatalism also. So if Politico writes an article tomorrow about antinatal conference, I would not be surprised if they paint a similar picture. And that's why I'm more interested in the arguments themselves than the people making them. But the philosophical and moral arguments about creating a new child was not the focus of Natal Conference, and I think that is the main difference. A new issue of the Journal of Controversial Ideas was out last week. In it, we have 3 chapters related to antinatalism. Going through all of that will require videos of their own, so I'll only briefly touch upon them here. There is an asymmetry proposed by Jeff McMahon. If we are going to create a new person and that person's life is not worth living, that is, that life would have more bads than goods, then for that reason we should prevent that person from coming into existence. But if that person's life is going to be worth living, then that is not a reason enough to bring them into existence. Nor is it a reason enough not to bring them into existence. Therefore, one can say that creating a good life is permissible but not required. In the chapter Antinatalism and the Asymmetry, Christopher Belshaw says that this argument is untenable. He says that creating new lives, even if they are worth living, is also forbidden. But he says that his reasons are not the same as Bennett's antinatalism. In the same issue of Journal of Controversial Ideas, Jeff McMahon replies to Christopher Belshaw in the chapter "Thou shalt not create, but if thou dost, thou shalt kill," a comment on Belshaw. And immediately after that chapter, in the same Journal of Controversial Ideas, Christopher Belshaw writes a response to McMahon. So quite a bit of back and forth between these two philosophers in the same issue of the journal, which is quite interesting. So coming back to antinatalist outreach by Nimrod and Lawrence in Vienna, remember that interaction we talked about? Let's have a look at that.
So we just spoke to this guy who was walking along with his family, his wife and 2 children, and him and his daughter stop and start looking at the signs. So we asked him, what do you think of the signs? And he told us we should go somewhere else and speak to people who have 8 children rather than him. He's only got 2. And we told him, we think this message applies to everyone. And he said that actually different messages apply to different people. And we asked him that, some people in some countries or animals kill their own children or they're pedophiles. And what did he say, Nimrod?
He said that I asked him, if you find out that your neighbor is a pedophile, won't you inform the police or the parents of the child or do something to prevent a child rape? And he said, none of my business. No, I won't interfere. I won't call police. I won't do anything. It's none of my business.
And he even said, we even directly asked him, is it okay for people to kill their own children? And he said, if it's in their culture, it sometimes happens and it's okay because it's in their culture. And when he said that, I looked at his daughter and she did a really uncomfortable laugh. I think because she probably knew that he'd backed himself into a corner and he was chatting absolute bullshit that he doesn't actually believe. But she was also uncomfortable with the fact that her own father thinks it's okay for parents to kill their own children if it's their decision. It's got nothing to do with the child. It's just their personal decision if they kill their own child.
If being inconsistent in an argument in the street is more important for you than your daughter, I think it's a great argument for antinatalism.
Anyway,
because that was the case. I'm sorry, because there is no way that he is in favor, that he morally approves killing people killing their children or slavery. Because Lawrence pushed them to a corner regarding slavery as well, and he said, if that was the system. And Lawrence gave him another pushback and told him, would you agree? Do you agree with the slavery abolition? And he said, what? Different system. It was good then.
Yeah, he said things changed. He didn't say whether it was a good change or not. I said, and that's good, right? And he said, it was a different system. It was crazy. But anyway, we hope the report is going well and see you soon.